to order at 8:30. We are meeting in person in the Nauset Room in Town Hall in a hybrid format with remote participation and are live streamed on Channel 1072. And we'll take attendance. Tim?
I'm here.
Ginny? Here. Dick?
Here.
Judith?
Here.
Jerry?
Here.
I'm here. Ken?
Here.
And David is absent today. And we are joined by John Janelle, our conservation agent, and Christina Smith, our conservation office manager, and at times Meph Runyon, our liaison to the select board. Okay, our first order of business this morning. Notice of intent, Paul and Lynn Ivins, 30 Deer Run, by Ryder and Wilcox, map 21, parcel 49. The proposed additions and alterations to an existing single-family dwelling. Work will occur within the 100-foot buffer zone to the top of a coastal bank. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Sequin with Ryder and Wilcox. I'm representing Paul and Lynn Ivins, who are here in the front row, and with me is Paul Muldoon from SV Design Architects. This property is at 30 Deer Run. It's a 39,000 square foot lot abutting a salt marsh on Mill Pond. The pond and marsh fall within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's an A zone, elevation 12. And for the most part, the topography at the 12-foot contour is between 4:1 and 10:1. So by definition, the 12-foot contour is the top of the coastal bank. Over on the east side of the property, there's a little bit of an embankment, and in that spot, the top of the bank is the point above the flood contour where the slope becomes less than 4:1. So we're showing the top of the coastal bank, the 50-foot, 75-foot, and 100-foot buffers from the top of the coastal bank. There is an existing two-story dwelling, an attached two-car garage, a deck at the first floor level on the water side. There's a walkout basement on the water side. At the walkout level, there's an in-ground pool with a concrete apron. The hardscaping on the site consists of a brick driveway, brick and stone walkways, and stone retaining walls. In the existing driveway, there are two catch basins that handle runoff from the driveway and also from the southerly side of the house. The rest of the roof areas on the north side of the building have gutters and downspouts connected to dry wells. The existing building is almost entirely within the 100-foot buffer, and portions of the building, deck, pool, and apron are within the 50-foot buffer. The existing Title V system is original to the house when it was built in 1996, and it was recently inspected just prior to the sale to the Ivins and was found to be in good condition. What's being proposed currently are renovations to the existing house, mostly interior renovations, but will also involve removal and replacement of existing windows and doors on the first floor and walkout levels. Some of the renovations will include changes to the actual footprint or enclosed space on the existing building. There's also a plan to move the existing front porch to a slightly different location. Paul will get into the details of all the various little modifications here, but in general, all the proposed alterations to the footprint are occurring within existing footprint of either building, deck, or hardscaping. The only exception is the front porch is going into existing vegetated area. The overall change in square footage of enclosed building or roofed area is actually a 33 square foot reduction in square footage. There's also proposed a new rinse station on the first floor deck within that existing deck area. It's proposed to have a pan underneath the rinse station that will have a drain to contain the rinse water and discharge it to a dry well to be installed beneath the deck. And then also another rinse station at the lower level in the area of the pool. That is located beneath the existing deck, and it will have a 6-inch minimum layer of stone beneath the rinse station to contain, again, the rinse water and recharge it to the ground. I included construction notes on the plan and a construction protocol with the notice of intent. Access to the work area will be from the existing driveway. For the most part, all the construction and demolition access will be through the front door. There will be some access around either side of the building, just for workers to be able to get to the back of the building. That access will be limited to the existing established yard area. There will be a fabric silt fence installed to define that access area and make sure the activity doesn't go beyond that existing yard area. A dumpster will be placed in the driveway. It will be provided with a lid or other suitable cover to prevent wind-blown debris. All construction or demolition material will either be placed into the dumpster or into trucks to be removed from the site. There will be some excavation required for the new front porch, the footings for the front porch. That will be accomplished using either a mini excavator or a backhoe or some other similar, smaller piece of equipment. All the excavated material will either be placed into trucks for removal from site or stockpiled outside of the 100-foot buffer and will be removed upon completion of backfilling. Any changes in the roof area will have, the roof will continue to be connected to dry wells to contain the roof runoff. And upon completion of the construction, all the disturbed areas will be restored to their original condition. And by disturbed, I'm thinking just foot traffic, maybe, ladders or scaffolding, needing to have the grass reseeded, but otherwise, there's no actual excavation proposed other than for that front porch area. So I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Paul, and he can kind of work you through each of the different elements of the renovations.
Good morning, Paul Muldoon, SV Design, and thank you for your time on the walkthrough last week. I think it was very helpful to just look at each elevation and sort of walk our way around the building, and I'm intending to do the same here, starting on page P0.2. It's the south elevation facing the street and starting on the left-hand side of the page. You can see our architectural changes are minimal based on interior renovations. So we're modifying some spaces on the interior which are altering the location of windows. So starting on the left-hand side of the page, you can see we've got a window reduction in that octagon space, and then a modification to that first gable end, taking away 2 windows and putting in 3 windows that are up a little bit higher in sort of an awning style. In that next connector section, there's a bay, a projection off the existing structure that we're removing in lieu of 2 windows on the baseline wall. This middle section is where we're doing maybe most of our work. We're taking that front entry porch, and a very similar size, we're shifting it over on that gable end again, so that as you enter the structure, you're now seeing through it in sort of this transparency out to the water view through the structure. Likewise, the uppermost portion of that existing structure is a hip roof as it slopes down. We're taking the hip out and completing the gable end so that it will match the gable end on that left-hand side and again, the garage end. A few modifications on the next connector where we have another projection or a boxed-out bay window that goes away in lieu of 2 windows on the flat wall behind. Some minor modifications to the upper dormer above that space, and then the garage effectively stays the same. We're opening up an exterior wall so that there's some transparency as you walk around the property. Going to the next sheet, the P-01, this is the ocean view, and I'm sure, the most scrutinized by way of glazing, trim, and such. And the generality here is that we have 48 existing openings. We're reducing the number of openings to 41. The glazing calculation, which was one of the questions we had on site, is effectively the same. We're a reduction by less than a square foot, but a reduction itself. So we've reduced the number of openings, but kept the glazing just about the same with a slight reduction. That has reduced the amount of white trim around these openings by about 49 linear feet. So it's a reduction in glazing, a reduction in openings, and a reduction in white trim as compared to the existing condition. Now, starting on the left-hand side of this sheet, coming across that upper porch in plane with that first floor level, we're removing a sliding door, and that's where our outdoor shower on the deck is placed. And then it's a rearrangement of windows in that first initial bay, and that there's sort of a sunroom or a small eating area. You can imagine a round table in that bay for a breakfast space. The next bay over is the kitchen bay, and that bay does project out. We're suggesting that bay is coming back to be more of a flat bay, so it does project some, not nearly as far as it is now, so there's a reduction in square footage there or building coverage, and then the windows get a little bit more regular. In the center section of the house, we have existing 4 windows and a French door in between. We're reorganizing that to be 2 sliding doors. So again, a reduction in openings, a simplification of the elevation, and a reduction of white trim in that space. The second floor windows here remain exactly as is. The roof line, the rake trim, the soffits and fascias remain exactly as they are. Continuing on across the page from left to right, the screen porch gets simplified by reducing some of the verticals in between the screens. And as we look past the deck stair, there's a bay window that gets removed in lieu of a flat wall surface. So again, a reduction in building footprint and a simplification of the windows. We have an existing bay in that furthest gable end to the right. That bay gets rebuilt and slid over just a little bit, again, to coordinate with what's happening on the interior. It becomes more of a box bay than, say, the splayed 45-degree bay. And then some modifications to that, the windows on the octagon side. So again, the number of openings is reduced by about 7. There's 7 less openings. There's 49 feet less linear feet of white trim around these openings as we've simplified the architecture. And the glazing calculation existing is 394.9, and we're going to 394.1 square feet. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions? Tim, go ahead.
Thank you for all the plans and the considerations of reducing the living area and all the other reductions as far as the trim and such. I do have a couple of questions as far as, will the material, all, especially the windows, the trim, will they be all like natural wood, or is it going to be some composite with plastic in it?
It will most likely be a composite trim. And the idea there is that we replace it once and we never have to replace it again.
Understood. So how, all that with the composite cutting, will there be any composite cutting on the grounds?
We can ensure that the cutting is happening in the garage, if that's helpful, and attached to a vacuum or a suction, so that it's capturing all the
Okay,
shavings.
okay, that's great. Let me see. Okay, what is the difference, why the difference between like the bottom of the rinse stations? One is a stone and the other is a copper plate or whatever?
Just because the one on the deck is, underneath the deck is 7, 8 feet above the ground.
Okay,
So rather than just having the water
right,
go
okay,
through the deck and splash onto the ground, it's being captured.
okay, all right. And I prefer only really one rinse station just because of the water runoff into Mill Pond. But otherwise, I like the project. Thank you.
Ginny, anything?
Thank you. Good morning. First, a shout out because you have some lovely clover in your side yard, and that's a very good thing. Very happy to see that. Made my morning. The second is, I think, a question for John. John, does this property, is this property covered by 196A-8B2, which is the ACEC?
This property is not in a ACEC.
It's not,
It is not.
but is it considered to be in the Nauset system?
In that section of the code, it has a performance standard for this area, but it's not a resource area.
Right,
So we're not-
it has a no adverse effect
Performance standard.
performance standard. Okay. Should that be marked on the plan?
It doesn't need to be because it's not a resource area that we would normally mark and then subject the building to volume discussions, et
Okay.
cetera.
Just for the homeowner going forward to know that that is a no adverse effect area.
Good point, yeah.
Okay, I don't have anything else at this time.
Okay. Dick, anything?
I don't have a thing to say right now.
Judith?
So I think there's a great opportunity here for improvement, big improvement. And the biggest thing for me would be replacing all of the white with natural cedar trim. That would do a tremendous amount for making this more blending into the natural environment. I would also prefer to see one rinse station to two, again, to the point of just loading into Mill Pond. However, that said, I think both of those, in terms of the amount of negative impact, are quite small, and I think covered by the small reduction in all of those things. So I'm okay with it. Going forward, I know as you're working on your landscaping, I would just urge you to please think natives, reduce lawn, and either add 2 additional screening or certainly not replace or diminish any amount of natural screening that's there. Thank you. Good
Okay.
explanation, very helpful.
Anything?
I was just gonna comment on the 2 wind stations. I'm not quite sure why you need 2, but, and then, putting the dry well, I like to maybe have some type of construction, mainly just because it's only like 30 feet from the top of the bank. So maybe about, how do you just don't dig a huge hole or something like that for the drywall. I'm not too sure. how
I mean,
you're gonna do that.
they sell small, like 2-foot diameter, 2 feet deep. It's not a huge excavation.
Yeah, but 2-foot diameter by 2 foot deep on a rinse station it's gonna fill up in about, 2 minutes, on a rinse station, right? So you have to have a fairly large dry well there for a rinse station. It's not like a,
I mean, it does leach out as the water is coming in.
All right.
And as far as there were several comments about the additional water from 2 rinse stations, whether you have, it's like bathrooms in a house. It's the number of bathrooms doesn't determine the flow, it's the number of people using the bathroom. So whether everyone's using the same rinse station or sharing 2, it's the same amount of water. And it's simply for convenience, because you've got in most situations, pools are at the same level as the living area. In this situation, we've got the pool at the basement level. The rinse station on the deck is just for the convenience of people, on the first floor level.
So, through the chair, I would just say that while I do agree in terms of the bathrooms, these are rinse stations. They are not going through the septic system. They are going directly into the ground, right on the coastal bank, and from there, right into, again, a foot a day, right into Mill Pond. So there's absolutely no uptake or attenuation of nitrogen, of phosphorus, of anything that's coming off those bodies as they rinse. So it is different, and there is the potential there for negative impact, which was why on site I was suggesting perhaps a swale a rain garden, a something that could help uptake whatever nutrients may be coming off those rinse stations before they reached Mill Pond. Again, I think it's a de minimis amount. I hear what you're saying. And I don't disagree that whether one person is rinsing there and another person is rinsing there, or they're both rinsing here, yeah, it's going to end up being about the same. And I also do appreciate that it would be a tough location to put in vegetated swales or rain gardens. There might be opportunity.
Anything else, Jerry?
Yes, sir.
The only question I had, when you're moving the front porch entry, where the old one was, there's no spec on what is to be planted there or replace what will be dirt, I guess?
I would, I guess,
It would be
maybe transplanting the shrubs that are
a native
currently in
garden.
front.
So can we condition that that's replaced with native mix
That would be lovely.
or native plantings? That's all I had.
You stole my question.
Sorry.
That was really my only question. Paul, that was an awesome presentation. It's very clear, and I think it's gonna look a lot better when all said and done. So thank you both. Stephanie, one tiny little nit in the public hearing notification, you referred to Channel 18. We've been upgraded to high def.
1072.
Okay.
Gotcha. No, I'm kidding.
I think 18 still works, though.
Oh, you read everything.
I could get it.
Oh, so 1072 is what works.
I
Yeah.
have
Through Comcast, it's 1072.
Yeah. It's a Comcast thing.
That's evidence of how compelling your presentation was.
So I have one, Picky.
Sure.
On the project narrative, it says, the flood elevation exceeds the marsh elevation. No, never mind, I got that question answered, forget it, I remember now. No. Never mind.
Okay, is there any public comment on this project in the room or online? Like it?
No raised hands.
Okay, all right.
Make a suggestion, Madam Chair? On the project did get a file number, so if you're ready to act, you're more than welcome to today. I would say on the foundation plantings, I would probably say a broader special condition that read something like incorporating suitable native species in any foundation or planting required with the project would cover you and give suitable direction to the Ivans to choose those plants accordingly from the list that we post and replant the area that's disturbed,
Okay,
rather than design their landscape, I guess.
yeah, no, I don't, yeah, just native. Ginny?
Yeah,
you-
so, John, what do you think is the best way to have a note on record that talks about the, no adverse effect?
Well, I don't think we need it. I guess I should have answered your question that on the civil site plan that we received with the filing, that all resource areas are correctly delineated.
Okay,
Should have started with that. So
Right.
that's,
Okay,
there's not a
that
resource
was it.
area here that's missing, if that provides you any comfort. And you've had a presentation on the merits of the project, which is basically a net or a net reduction in some instances. So to the extent you're comfortable acting on it with that performance standard in mind, you can today.
okay. And again, because these are new homeowners and we welcome you to Orleans, there is a no fertilizer within 100 feet of a resource area bylaw, town bylaw.
Yep. You can't water anything anyway, so fertilizer is useless at this
True,
point.
and
yeah.
we're still in a drought.
Anyone who's still fertilizing, you're wasting your money.
We're burning your lawn.
Yeah. Okay, can I get a motion to close the public
I
comment?
move to close public hearing for 30 Deer Run.
Second.
All those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Wait, yes, thank you.
Dick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Tracy? Aye. Ken?
Aye.
And a motion on the project.
I move to approve the project for 30 Deer Run, referencing project narrative by Ryder and Wilcox dated June 3rd, 2026. Site plan by Ryder and Wilcox with latest revisions of 6/9/2026. The architectural drawings drawings P00, P01, P02, P03, P04 by SV Design dated 4/1 and 4/3/2026, with the special conditions of all composite trim cuttings to be limited to inside the garage, and new front porch plantings should be landscaped by native mix or plantings.
Any new foundation plantings.
And a little more specificity on the composite cutting, it should be a capture.
Confined and also captured via
Capture.
some sort of vacuum or something.
That's what they do.
Because that is still in the
confining
honey.
capture.
Confined and captured. I think they get the idea. Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
See, I can. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you so much.
Our next order of business continuation, Chandelud 0317 and 317A South Orleans Road by Environmental Consulting and Restoration, map 69, parcels 14, 13, and 15. The proposed renovations of an existing boathouse, including new roofing, siding, windows, doors, flooring, and superficial foundation repairs. The project includes a new access deck at the front and a seasonally removable floating stairway at the back of the boathouse. The project also includes native mitigation plantings and new underground utilities. Work will occur within the 100-foot buffer zone to salt marsh on a coastal bank within land subject to coast storm flowage and within the Pleasant Bay ACEC. Good morning.
Good morning, Commission. Cameron Larson with Environmental Consulting and Restoration. Also here, part of the design team and project team, Ben Zender and Dave Bennett behind us here. We're representing property owner Sean DeLue to present this notice of intent to you for his property at 0 South Orleans Road. Thank you for that brief summary. We did open this project last month to the Commission. I thought we had some very constructive discussions. This is an old boathouse that we're dealing with at 0 South Orleans Road. Sean DeLue owns the property at this point and is seeking to make some modest renovations to preserve that structure, and is certainly aware of the resource area compliance issues that we're dealing with in front of the Commission at this point. Since our last meeting, we provided some additional information. We made some revisions to the plans, all of it based in what our discussions entailed at that initial meeting. What I'd like to do is just briefly touch on those revisions and the additional information. Then we'll be happy to address any questions that the Commission may have. One of the big points of discussion at the initial meeting was the protection of the aesthetics and interests protected by the bylaw. We have provided architectural plans drafted by Cape Associates that outlines all the construction material utilizing cedar trim, cedar shingle, siding, and maintaining, again, that natural look on Aries Pond. Structural support, there were some questions regarding spanning that 20-foot width of the building. We did confirm that it will be able to span that 20 feet width without utilizing any new footings underneath the structure, so there'll be no excavation or no new footings actually, within the structure itself. We provided some additional detail on those superficial foundation repairs. Again, we're not expanding the footprint. We're not redoing a new foundation. We're repairing where needed and simply to maintain the structural integrity of that foundation. We did revise our mitigation plan. We took the Commission's recommendation and spec'd out some more appropriate salt tolerant species in and around that boathouse. We're providing a fairly extensive mitigation plan within the footprint of the lot that we have available. We also did expand that mitigation into the existing footpath that will be abandoned. We discussed that. The access path that's proposed will utilize the existing easement, but the old footpath will be abandoned and planted out. Regarding that proposed pathway, we heard the commission loud and clear, that'll be maintained at a 4-foot width maximum. The retractable stairs, we provided some additional detail on those stairways at the rear to access Aries Pond. Again, those will be seasonally installed, and they'll be on a pulley system, so they'll be, when needed, they'll be lowered down, and when they're not needed, they'll be retracted up. So avoid any impacts to that salt marsh there. We did document our position on the FEMA and floodplain compliance. The big thing with that is not obstructing any of the floodwaters. That seaward side of the boathouse will remain open. Below that first floor, it'll all remain open to allow floodwaters to come in and out as they always have. We did detail some additional construction protocol as well as salt marsh protection. Again, all rooted in what we discussed at the initial meeting, utilizing mats for access around the boathouse during construction, as well as tarps to collect any debris. And we did specify that November to April timeframe from work during the dormant season of the salt marsh. That summarizes what we've provided in terms of additional information to support this project. Mr. Delude's very excited about this project. The renovations are modest. We are not seeking any expansion of that boathouse itself. And I think that with the mitigation plan, we have an opportunity here to provide a betterment to that area associated with Aries Pond. The boathouse has been there from the aerial imagery that we can document for nearly 100 years. It's certainly something special. And I think the plan in front of the commission will preserve that and protect the resource areas at the same time. So with that, happy to address any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. Ken, why don't we start this end?
Okay. Cam, just sort of a micro comment. Your narrative with regard to construction protocol says the debris will be removed on a routine basis, and then the construction notes in the plan say daily. Which one is the most true?
I expect they'll be able to remove the debris daily from the tarps, meaning, they'll collect the tarps and the debris around daily, stockpile it in the upland,
Okay.
removing from the site, when appropriate, but certainly outside of the work area daily.
That's helpful. And I'm not going to be able to phrase this question as well as some of my colleagues here, but since we have settled on this is a water-dependent structure, does the DEP need to be involved from a licensing perspective?
That's where we're going next, exactly. So as soon as we have that order of conditions, we'll be going to Chapter 91. We have been in talks with them, and this is our first stop on the journey.
That's all I have for now. Thank you.
To put a finer point on that, yeah, whatever permitting we do will have to be dependent on that Chapter 91 license being granted.
Of course.
We mentioned a lighting design last time, and I'm not seeing anything on plans regarding lighting, exterior lighting.
We're not proposing any exterior lighting at all, so we could certainly have a note on have condition, no exterior lighting.
Okay. And then there are 2 new skylights. That's a change. So, the state will deal with it in terms of any, a modification issue. I don't really see a problem with it other than reflection off more glass. But on a roof, I don't think it'll be an issue, but just noted for the public that there is a change to the structure. It's not just a pure replace. That's all I had for now. Jerry?
I don't have anything. They addressed the issue of 20-foot stream or 20-foot
Joyce?
floor joists there.
Yikes.
Yikes. It may bounce a little bit.
They have some amazing materials these days. Air lamps or something will do it.
That's it, nothing.
Okay, Judith?
Yes, thank you for that additional information. So I just wanted to further clarify. It looks like, and I believe that on the water-facing side, the only additional is the steps that are going down. There's no deck, there's no additional railings, there's nothing new there. And similarly, on the rear, I don't know where I got this idea, but somewhere early on, I thought I had seen patio, deck, something?
There's an entry, there's a little entry deck as you step up onto an entry deck to get in, that I think one of the comments from the commission was that, that be some type of decking to keep it from walking and keep it pervious. So I think the plans are showing that.
There were also, we did call out a shelled area in that front that was removed. There was, a shell kind of open area out front for access, but we've removed that, and the only way to access now will be that 4-foot path.
Okay, very good. So that's what I was recalling. Thank you for that clarification. And thank you for answering Drewsy's question on the lighting. That was a huge concern for me. And the lighting, no lighting outside on the exterior, including the path going down?
That's fine,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. Dick?
Couple things. The AZAC is going to be cut off-site for your.
Yeah, we can
AZAC
certainly do
away.
that. Yeah,
So that-
absolutely, no
Clear
problem.
that outside of-
Site, perfect. And I like that you're using the diamond piers on the decking. Good idea there, thank you. I'm still hung up with the floor, just have to be, but it's going to the state anyway. So that basically, I'm feeling today, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but, so our role is to resolve that the state level questions will be passed along, and so that, at this point in time, I support the restoration of the project, but
Thanks, Dave.
I really, to be told by the DEP that they're reminding us that this is a boathouse on a salt marsh in a floodplain, and that the structure is basically below the flooring will be below the base floor elevation. So, as I say in my writing here a minute, that has been going on for decades and decades, 100 years. And so that, at this point in time, I've got to believe in the process, and,
It's a boathouse.
yeah, it's a
I mean,
boathouse. Yep,
boat without water.
with a new floor.
Yeah, with a new floor.
So that's so with that
That's
said,
a very good point, Dick, because again, if it's a boathouse, you're bringing boats in, you're taking care of them, you're taking them out. Once the floor goes in, that's not happening. I mean, that's not happening.
Well, you can still use,
So-
yeah, you're not dragging them up on the beach to put them up. You could be putting kayaks, et cetera, up in there.
Well, kayaks, yes, but, yeah. But I agree with Dick, that's a good
I
point.
look forward to the project, and it's going to work out, so just keep going, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Jenny?
3 things. The first is in your narrative, number 6, talking about the stairways, the stairway. It says, a pulley system will be installed to raise and lower the stairs when needed. And then the next statement says, installed and removed annually. So, to me, those two statements are in conflict, but is as needed annually?
I don't think they're in conflict. I mean, you can install the stairway on the seaward side of the building
Okay,
seasonally, then you can lower it down when you want to use it.
okay.
So.
All right, so it's 2 different actions?
And one point I'd like to point out, Jenny, while and I've been trying to find the right time to say this, our statement says that there will be nothing on the ground. If you look at the plans clearly, carefully, there's a piece of rebar that's on the bottom of the stairs, that when it goes down, the rebar sits on the bottom and stabilizes that staircase. So I think that's a minimal intrusion into the resource, but I just want to make clear, when you approve this, if you look at that, there is that section of rebar that's fastened to the bottom stair that will go down.
So it's not purely floating.
Well, it just means it just gets rid of the wiggle. So it's not floating. It's not well, yes, when you say, I meant, yeah, floating, I meant floating in the water, yeah. It's not purely floating, but it's just that piece of rebar.
It's not cable suspended.
The cables are suspending it. The rebar is not bearing the weight.
Okay.
It's just stabilizing the stair when it's, so that it's not, doesn't have that lateral
I
movement.
mean, there is a little concern there that
Oh.
it'll drill holes in the marsh.
Yeah, it's a,
Then National Seashore probably wouldn't like that kind of construction, but we're not the
Mussels living in the
National.
marsh there probably won't.
I don't think seashore likes any kind of construction.
Well, they don't want anything touching their,
Well, I just don't want to be misrepresenting the project to you.
Okay.
You know, I noted that, I saw that in the plan when I looked at it.
Yeah, but that's a good point, Ginny, because in terms of the design, while that might be intended to stabilize it. The fact that it is going to be moving back and forth is going to be disturbing sediments in the bottom of Aries Pond, which is a very highly nutrient-laden sediment area. The last thing we want to do is bring those sediments to the surface of the water.
We can certainly remove it. I mean, look, if the board wants it
It
removed.
would be better.
It would be better, yeah. I think that's
Much better.
that's an improvement that isn't.
Standard is,
The homeowners can
Unintended
practice their sea
consequences.
legs on the,
I don't think it's, I just don't like sitting in front of this board and not telling you.
we know.
No,
what
we
you're
appreciate
looking
it,
for.
yeah.
We know
I was
what
going to
you're
bring it
looking
up,
for.
so.
It's a very important.
Yeah.
So instead of that rebar going into the marsh,
nothing.
I know you want to stabilize it from wiggling. Is there some kind of other mechanism to somehow attach to the boathouse to the stairs so that it doesn't wiggle?
I don't think there's a significant concern there. I mean, I've been told that we can remove it. It's just something, I mean, usually, in the old days, you would put a half cinder block or something, 2 half cinder blocks down there. It would go down, it would lay on that. There wouldn't be any disturbance to the sediment, but obviously, a flounder's not gonna be
Right,
living there.
right. You
So,
don't
I
get
mean,
a
if the-
lot of wave action at that end of.
No, it's just not. So it's just, again, you know, my job depends on representing to you accurately what's in front of you,
Yes.
so.
Appreciated.
If you want it removed, we'll remove it.
We definitely want it removed.
Yeah,
I
thank
think.
you. So my next nitpicky thing is number 7. It says at the bottom, tarp and other containment measures will be removed and properly, I think it's stored?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the third question, and this is because I don't remember from the site visit, the path, the access path, not the easement, but the access path, that's a pretty steep slope. Any issues around runoff?
I don't think there's
Losing?
major issues right now. I mean, it's, we are planning to abandon it.
No, not the easement.
No, we're abandoning the pathway that comes from Sean's existing house diagonally down to the boathouse.
They're going down the easement
They're going down the easement and
and abandoning the path.
planted.
then I don't understand, please forgive me, the mitigation plan. Is that planting in the middle of the existing path?
Correct.
Should be.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Tim, anything?
The only thing I have, again, is the protection of the marsh. And if there is any disturbance, interruption of the marsh, that it'll get replanted. And I'm sure you will. But that's my main concern. And I know you're going to be doing it in the off-season of the growing, so,
That could be a condition, certainly.
okay.
One other thing to note is the new deck on the front, I guess, should adhere to the spacing specs that we have in our regulations so that
Sure.
the marsh underneath it can continue to get light.
There's no marsh on that landward side of the deck.
There will be, so I would,
Okay.
I would plan for
No.
that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
2070.
The spacing is, it's not anything, be a
Yeah, that's
problem.
that's a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
okay. Yep, go ahead, Ken.
This is actually more for Ginny. Last time we talked about this, you asked about seed mix specs. I don't see that
Thank you.
delineated here specifically, but I just want to make sure you were okay with that. Maybe I missed it, but I know you brought that up.
So what was the answer?
I don't know if there is
The
a,
mitigation plan does not show seed mix spec. It shows switchgrass
Right.
and little blue stem, but it doesn't show any, for example, for that hillside path replacement, I imagine between those shrubs, there needs to be some sort of seed mix put down.
We can certainly provide that. We use a salt-tolerant seed mix that's provided by Ernst Seeds quite a bit. It's all native species to the area, so we can certainly provide that.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Or maybe even some ground cover. Just-
Well, that'll be the ground cover.
Hmm?
That'll be the ground cover.
No, but I'm just saying, yeah, something a little more woody.
Woodies, so
Woody.
There's a bunch of woodies going in.
I think the mix is a good offering.
Okay,
It's usually very successful.
thank you, Ken.
Okay, so, based on the fact that this is going to be going to the state, we often, under these circumstances, ask for staff to prepare a written set of conditions to go along with the filing so that we have it really buttoned down for the state.
Yep.
So, John, can you address that?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So, I think given our schedule, I would probably recommend, let's leave the hearing open if you want, and then we would just have a brief continuance, and I could, if you direct me to do so, prepare draft findings,
Findings is
facts.
what I meant, yeah.
Findings and special conditions, and I'll go over some of the stuff I'm listening to for an order of conditions. So I'm seeing heads nod, so that's what I could do. So that'd be teeing this up for a vote at our next scheduled meeting.
But I'm sorry, but to Dick's point, would it be possible to also include some of the just sort of general concerns and questions that we would like DEP to focus on as part of that review?
Well, let me review what I've listened to, I think, at the last meeting and this one. Concerns and questions, I think, should still be talked about today, so we can get those out. And if you're going to direct staff to prepare a draft, that'll be in the affirmative for issuing an order with special conditions. But, I mean, I'll start at the DEP comments, because they did make comments that it may, Chapter 91 license may be required. Normally, when we see that, we might issue an order, but then condition it that no work proceed unless the license is either obtained or we hear directly from the DEP in writing that no license is required. So that'll allow the applicant to go off and work with the DEP and get us some confirmation back, either a license, which will take a period of time, or a written confirmation that none is necessary for the work. So that would probably be a leading kind of special condition in any order conditions. Cameron, thank you for the very detailed supplemental filing information today. A lot of that stuff we can lean on in order conditions, specifically, this is all work in resource area, salt marsh, boathouse. Commission usually time of year restricts that, so any order you issue for all this work would normally take place between November 1, April 1 of the calendar year. I think would probably probably be redundant and lean on some of the marsh protection measures that Cameron submitted in the revised information in terms of requiring marsh mats or alternate mats in the dormant time of the year, foot traffic, et cetera, tarps and debris cleanup daily, et cetera. A lot of that's already offered, but we could be redundant in our special conditions. I think we could add, as I just heard, the no exterior lighting permitted, and we could even add the no lighting on the path permitted. We could detail the spacing requirements. It's not a typical walkway, although it was discussed as a walkway. Walkway has a different definition, but our spacing requirements for walkways in our local reg is no less than 3/4 of an inch. So just little details like that. And again, finding that it is a boathouse, water-dependent structure, et cetera. So I'd be happy to draft all that, but maybe we should circle back to the previous speakers. If there's more to discuss, then we should discuss it here. If you're asking me to draft it, I would say leave the hearing open. We'll prepare a draft that would basically tee you up to have a very brief meeting and then review it. With the hearing open, the applicant can also comment on the draft. We can make it available in your packet and act at the next meeting.
Yeah, and also please include to remove the rebar.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. I wasn't going to let Ben get away with it, but it was the intent of the floating stair. I think it would be great to meet the intent. The intent
that's
of
fine.
Cameron, the applicant's team, was to not touch the bay bottom. I love the challenge. I would say through construction means and methods, try to deal with the side-to-side movement and not touch the bay
I
bottom.
think we can. I mean, I don't hear anything super unusual in this approval. If the board wants to vote to approve with the order, if you want to have us come back, we can come back, but either way.
Well, just come back so that we can have the official facts and findings from staff. So I would ask you to continue to our next meeting so that we can have that and approve that.
Yeah, we'll make that.
It can all be buttoned up. Again, because we know it's going to state, we want to make sure everything's buttoned up on our end, and,
But before we continue, is there anything that we need to further discuss? Because to the extent further discussion leads to a condition that I'm not hearing that I should include in a draft, we would give me a chance to include it.
does anyone have anything else? Any other concerns?
I just,
Just to Dick's point, that I don't know how to
what am I doing?
lean forward. I don't know how to verbalize what Dick was trying to raise in terms of some of the newer DEP concerns about.
Yeah, well, let's just go over those.
So, John, I think the only thing that I would like to add into this is, I see it as a pre-existing, non-conforming structure that has weathered the test of time, that it's 100 years old. So is it a pre-existing, non-conforming? Perhaps. Is it not being elevated? Perhaps. It's not going to be a, is it not being reconstructed as a new structure? So it's not being remodeled kind of idea. It's not a new structure. So those all lend into what DEP is going to be looking at in terms of their checklist of, water movement, this, that, and the other thing. I think there's some positives that we can put in that reinforces what this project is about, as well as some of our other questions, if we do have other questions.
I think, so I probably never include the words pre-existing non-conforming in the wetlands arena, those are more.
Well, it is, though, that's the.
But I
fact.
think what you're alluding to is, yes, I would prepare a series of findings before you, and facts before you get into reviewing special conditions. And a lot of those would make great facts and findings. For example, the age of the boathouse, the water-dependent use of the boathouse acknowledged by the applicant. And we would fold those into a draft facts, findings, and special conditions. And I could do that for you.
I think one of the potential conflicts that should be brought up is the water-dependent use versus putting in a new floor.
That's the piece, yeah, that's the piece that.
I think we want to find an acknowledgement with the applicant that it's a boathouse and it's in fact, a water-dependent use. That's significant in the licensing processes where they actually regulate how the water-dependent structure is used. We don't really do that here.
Yeah, and I don't, and I think, and I was, if you don't mind, through the chair.
Go ahead.
I was struggling, Dick, with, this idea of pre-existing non-conforming. That's really more of a zoning thing, but I think it's a traditional water-dependent use in a traditional water-adjacent structure. So I think maintaining that traditional, even apart from the use, just even the look and the feel on the waterfront, New Orleans, of the boathouses, I think is important. At least to me, it's important. But I don't think that having a floor or not having a floor necessarily disqualifies the structure from being water dependent. It may make it so that you can't haul a boat up into it, for example. Like you can't, in the old days, you haul the boat right up on the ground and right up in there, have a railway or something like that. Yeah, you're gonna lose the ability to haul larger boats up into there, but you can still store your boating equipment, you can still bring your kayaks in, you can still repair boats, you can still keep rigging. There's all kinds of things you can do with a floor that are more difficult without a floor. So I think boathouses go both ways.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I mean, that's fair,
Right.
Over there.
Can I add one more thing? As I think about it, if you put in the floor and you're putting your kayaks and all your equipment on the floor, you're allowing absolutely unimpeded, relatively unimpeded water flow
true.
underneath, which at some point will be a benefit to your new marsh.
And in some, you're preventing stuff that you would have in your boathouse,
From washing
maybe
out to,
even from washing down into the marsh, so, I mean,
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
from
I'm-
the floors.
I don't know, I still have a boathouse that has a railway going into it, so,
wow. Gotta see that one.
It's all uphill from there.
right.
Yeah, with my family, we have both. We have a smaller boathouse that has a dirt floor, and then I guess what used to be I think it was the Hearst House, where we got it and the town Hearst was, but it has a floor, and it's always had the wide floor. And again, you just store your boats there, rigging, and, and such, so
Okay.
shouldn't be an issue.
Are there any other issues we need to bring up before we go to continue, and John can write up back some findings, and that we can get this project underway?
I think I've heard everything. I've sort of summarized what you should anticipate seeing in the draft. We would prepare a draft for you, make it part of the agenda item. Whether you want the applicant to revise the Stello plan, eliminating the rebar.
We will.
I think that was the only revision to documents.
We could also revise the mitigation plan to identify the seed mix,
That would be
Yeah, and maybe
And
toss
then
the
the
spacing
conflict.
on.
the spacing on the deck.
The debris removal that was highlighted.
We can-
I'm
we
not
can
sure
take
where
care of all
that
that.
is in
Daily,
the
make sure
notes.
it's daily everywhere.
So you would have some time to revise those as well, and,
I don't think we need much time, I mean, whatever
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Our next meeting isn't till, sorry, Ken, go ahead.
One last quick thing. There was some back and forth discussion with the commission about utilities being run down to the boathouse. And I think we were ultimately fine with that, but I just wanted to reconfirm.
No, had to do with exterior lighting for me, so.
Yeah, as long as there's no exterior lighting on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we July 7th?
Seventh.
I assume you want to do first available meeting, so you can move on.
Yeah, that would be great, thank you.
Is there any public comment on this project in the room or online?
No raised hands.
Okay, can I get a motion to continue?
I move to continue the discussion for 317 and 317A, South Orleans Road, 7726.
7726. I second.
All those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
Tracy? Aye. Ken?
Aye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a
Getting
nice
there.
day.
We're getting there. Okay, next order of business, revised plan request. Christopher Fraley, 21 Little Bay Road, DEP number 54-2689. The proposed addition of a 4-foot-high pool fence, high pool enclosure fence. Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rob Calderero with PSD and Katrine Higgins with Bartlett Tree Experts here representing 21 Little Bay. We're here to continue our conversation in regards to our proposed plan change of adding an addition of approximately 40 feet of 4-foot-high mesh fence. And I think the best way to kind of rediscuss this is to go back to the beginning and what we actually had approved originally. As you mentioned, we had originally proposed a auto cover only pool enclosure. That was our intent. As we went through our design process, our client started to really understand that the 10-foot easement that runs on the north side of the property is basically beach access for all of East Egg. So that's where people come down to the beach. He saw the safety concerns with a pool cover only. He also saw liability issues there. So we went back to the drawing board and came up with the idea of the 35 to 40-foot fence. You also asked to see additional what's beyond your 100-foot buffer. And what we've prepared is a diagram here that actually outlines the pool enclosure, of which was already approved to this point. And again, the only area we're asking for is this section here. The plant bed that this runs through was never considered mitigation, was not part of our mitigation plan, but was conditioned to have native plant material. We are proposing plant material, primarily herbaceous material, which which a fence really wouldn't prohibit pollinators and birds from accessing. So obviously, we're still planning to do that, but I wanted to have Katrine here to discuss kind of where we are on mitigation, et cetera.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I'm sorry, can I just clarify that? So the fence line goes past those two red things and then juts, and then goes all the way back?
Goes back to the house here.
Huge.
Okay, so it's really,
So you do have that 10-foot easement that I've talked about before that provides, access down there. And again, you've got the 10-foot easement that runs across the back here as well.
but the stuff on the other side already, that was in the previous plan. So the only thing we're talking about today is the southern side.
We're just talking about this little piece right here.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I put a fine point on that? Because I've met with, I had Rob come in after the last meeting. I think that retaining wall serves as a pool fence by the Board of Health's code. And that is all on the approved plan, so.
Yeah. Okay.
And just to add one last piece, we really, we were thinking the auto pool cover would be pool enclosure. As we talked about it internally, and again, understanding that we have that easement, public easement across the top, that our chances of getting that variance from the Board of Health was probably pretty minimal, given the fact that there would be such easy access and visibility from the East Egg public. Again, that's the reason why for this small section.
So something for the commission to note for future reference is that if people do come before us with an auto cover plan, we should query the applicants on whether it's either been approved or they think it can get approved so that we go forward knowing which it's gonna be. But that's water under the bridge, so let's move on with this now. Katrine, did you wanna?
Yeah, sure. So I thought it'd be kind of nice to just step back and talk about the overall project that we permitted last September. So the initial project proposed 9,000 square feet of invasive species management and native plant restoration. This was 9,020 square feet of ecological restoration to really satisfy the proposed net increase coverage of 354 square feet of net increase. It's a significant amount of restoration for a relatively very small increase. We completed the initial work last November and December, and the Coastal Bank, as you kind of remembered, we went out and visited the site in August, I think. It was heavily invaded by non-native and invasive plants, tons of mugwort, black locust, bittersweet, porcelain berry, multiflora rose, Norway maple, autumn olive, vine honeysuckle, garlic mustard, and can I say mugwort again, because it's everywhere.
Sure.
We blanketed the entire bank. We added that bank fill, as we talked about in the hearing process. And before blanketing the bank, we seeded the entire project area and the bank, included with a native grass, including switchgrass. It's germinating well so far. This spring, we added nourishment to the gabion array, as discussed, since that beach was being lowered by the gabions. And we planted the toe of the bank with American beachgrass and some switchgrass plugs also. As we've expected, the invasives are coming back. The mugwort is very present. But we're actively treating the bank, and it's doing well. As I said, it's germinating pretty nicely. We also started the restoration planting effort. We planted the significant hollies, 7 hollies and 12 arrowwood viburnum in the buffer. So we're in the midst of this restoration project, and as Rob described, we're proposing. He described the fence area. We're proposing, and you can see on our revised restoration plan, lawn removal, 325 square feet of additional lawn removal, right on the landward edge of the buffer. And that will be seeded with a native seed mix, and then we're proposing to plant fragrant sumac there. We didn't have fragrant sumac in the existing or the initial restoration plan, so we thought adding another native species that will do well with the proposed species in that area, the sweet fern and the New Jersey tea, would do nicely there. So just to add some more diversity there. So that's the 325 square feet of extra lawn removal to kind of satisfy this, this fence.
And just to give you an idea of how we came up with 325 square feet, that is the square feet of this planting area. We'll still be obviously planting it in native material and the material in front of it, but we just wanted to offer this as a way of mitigating for the fence. So instead of obviously keeping this still, but taking this and actually putting it adjacent to the resource as an additional 325 square feet.
So, and just one quick thing. So back in September, we were proposing 25-to-1 mitigation ratio for the increase. And now with this extra 325 square feet for the fence, that small amount of fence, we are now at a 26.4-to-1 mitigation ratio for this project.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Ginny?
So, thank you for that, though I noticed that we still have lawn in the ACEC and in the 50, but it's something. But how do you anticipate delineating that removed lawn? Because it looks like it would be really easy to make a mistake and mow in there.
You're gonna cut and scarify, I saw.
Pardon me?
I saw you're gonna cut and scarify in your plan?
Yeah, I mean, it would be the same as the existing now. You could mow into that area over time.
Except that you've got area that's just specified seed mix, not,
Oh, I see what you, well, there would be, yeah, I see what you mean over there. It was just kind of tight to add more shrubs. In reality,
I don't mind that it's a seed mix as long as it's like a wildflower seed mix or what. I think
Yeah, it's
There's a lot of-
eliminator, like stones or something
right,
to keep mowers out.
something to keep that,
Single rail fence, stones,
Keep it from turning back. to a lawn.
handstones, you know.
We've done cobblestones on edge that we can do every 25 feet. That would help delineate that.
That would work.
Yeah, I mean,
just something.
Understood.
because the mowers sometimes just don't know, and they'll just go
They
in.
sometimes mow on the other side.
Mowers mow.
You know,
Well, we certainly will make sure they don't do that.
better not. There's going to be a lot of
There's an investment
herbaceous
there.
flowering species here.
We've seen it.
I know.
We've seen it.
I've seen it a lot.
The cut and scarify that's proposed, it's really a different ground cover type, so.
It should be
Yeah.
Not like
pretty
we're
obvious.
doing,
Just
a
saying.
lot of times when you require like a no-mow condition, it becomes more significant to delineate. When you have a restoration contractor at the table, when they're gonna cut and scarify, there's gonna be a change in the ground cover type.
And keep in mind, Bartlett will be a part of the process moving forward as well, so they'll be there. So if anything does go awry.
just so you can see your mugwort. Other questions? Commissioners, Tim?
I'm still having a hard time with the fence. You know, we had an agreement, and now you want the new fence. I'm still, and I appreciate all the new mitigation and everything. What is, and I asked this before, but what is the reasoning for this fence?
It's pool enclosure.
Okay. That's what you said last time, and I thought we had a discussion as far
I
as,
think we had, did we just?
it wasn't required by,
Yeah, you have to, it is required. You have to
but that fence is now.
But what,
It's 100%
Some
required.
sort of pool protection
we
is required.
we asked for a larger pool than is normally, a
Okay.
pool fence than is,
Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right.
they asked for.
You have to get a
variance.
variance to get a pool fence X
That's-
further away from a pool than,
Okay, all right, then,
If we
okay,
didn't have to put a fence there, we wouldn't.
okay. All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm good.
any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay. Can I get, this is not a public hearing.
It is not.
Revised.
You can welcome
Can
a
I get a
motion.
motion on the revised plan request?
I move to approve the revised plan request for 21 Little Bay Road.
With the provision
With
that,
the provision that special condition of, to delineate new proposed mitigation area.
You're also going to accept the revised mitigation plan from Bartlett in that motion? Is that your intent? Covers the additional lawn removal?
yeah.
All right.
That was my intent. It just didn't come out right.
We will cite that for you.
Your unspoken intent.
It was my intent inside. Outside,
Understood.
Just to be clear.
I felt it.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I intend to second that, Jerry.
Okay, no, seriously. Do I have a second?
You do have a second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Tracy? Aye. Ken?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, it looks wonderful from the water.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah.
here.
Our next order of business, revised plan request, Michael and Tracy Roberget, 27 Cheney Road, DEP number 54-2677. Proposed changes to the configuration of the seasonal float associated with the pier and dock structure.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning. I'm Melissa St. Ange. I'm the project manager for PSD, representing the work at the project at 27 Cheney Road. What we have before you is a request from the homeowner for a minor plan modification relating to the floating seasonal part of the dock structure that's been replaced. What was approved was a 20 by 10 floating seasonal dock with a 24-foot gangway down from the new dock structure to the float. The plan revision here is a 25-foot by 8-foot float. There is no overall increase in the size, square footage coverage of the seasonal float. It is a change in the shape and configuration of it. Prior to bringing this before the commission today, we did submit to the state, to DEP, to ensure that that this would not require any change to the Chapter 91 filing that was done on behalf of the project. We received a letter back from DEP, which is in your filing packet there, determining that this is a minor project modification, an insignificant deviation essentially, and that there were no additional amendments or requirements to the license. Also in your packet is a section provided by Cape and Islands Engineering, which gives both the original approved float and then a visual representation of the modification to change that configuration. Also with that, the ramp down to the new float goes from 24 feet, which was the original plan, to 25 feet. I will accentuate from the plan that the float does not protrude further out into the bay from the original proposed. So there'll be no more encroachment into the water area.
So, I'm sorry, but this seems to show that it does.
I think the
No, the original outer edge of the float in the plan, which you can see is the 20-foot line, is also the same line that the 25-foot revision is.
This is just numbers.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And one, I think that was a great job, Melissa. I know this is a detailed thing, but when we approved the modification to the existing licensed pier, remember, we did go up. And that's a lot of what's driving the length and ramp and the change in float.
That's a great point,
Yeah,
John. With the increase to the height of the dock, it does modify the
Yeah,
length of the
I
ramp.
appreciate that explanation. Thank you, Dick, 'cause
I
looking
saw
at
that.
this,
Get 'em
it just
connected.
looked like it was further out, and my question was gonna be, has the harbor master approved this? But,
So to clarify, the float is 8 feet wide,
Yes, 8 feet wide.
so that where you see the 20 and 25 markers.
Deep.
Okay. Yeah, I had the same
okay.
concern.
It's just a rectangle, more rectangular
Right.
instead of more squarish.
That's an excellent representation, yeah.
So, We did have the cross-section on the approved order conditions for the modified license pier. That is why I required Melissa to come back to revise the plan, just so you can have the ability to review what the Waterways Division said about the change, and then formally accept it if you're comfortable with it, understanding that's a net-net kind of change in order to meet the higher pier.
Any other questions?
Clarification, so there are will be three changes to the dock and pier and float, and Waterways is okay with the cumulative, all three of them?
They were okay with the initial,
And they're.
less piles in the bay and shorter pier, higher pier. They were certainly okay with that. And they're on record okay with the modifications to the length and the ramp and the change in the float.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the revised plan request for 27 Cheney Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Drusy? Aye. Ken?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Melissa.
Okey-dokey. Next order of business, certificate of compliance, Paula Madsen, 26 Horseshoe Lane, DEP number 54-2492. The porch addition, removal of an existing deck and step, construction of a new deck, patio expansion, and land management work. Work occurred within the 100-foot buffer zone to the top of a coastal bank and within the Pleasant Bay ACEC. John?
You have a letter in your packet from Wilkinson Ecological Design stating the project is done, and I did do my walkthrough, the project has long been done, and given its, and actually it's in full compliance. So with that, if you have any questions for me, my recommendation is you can find the project in compliance today. There are two requested ongoing conditions that made your packet, and I can read them into the record if it's helpful. WED is requesting the following ongoing conditions. Number one, Wilkinson Ecological Design to be the contractor of record unless the property owner notifies the Conservation Department as per special condition number 3. And number 2, allowance for follow-up invasive plant monitoring and treatment on an as-needed basis in accordance with the approved land management plan after notice, basically. So those two are fairly typical. They want to continue to maintain this. They want to be the contractor that does that after notice. I'm fine with that.
Questions? Concerns? Can I get a motion?
I move to find the project in compliance for DEP number 542492, 26 Horseshoe Lane, with the ongoing conditions as read into record.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Drusy? Aye. And
Aye.
skip Ken. It'll be a 6-0-0. Okay, all set with that. Our next order of business, administrative review, Orleans Pond Coalition, Pilgrim Lake, the proposed monitoring of cyanobacteria and water quality parameters from June through November of 2026.
I don't know if I have anyone from the Pond Coalition online, but I got a very detailed administrative review submittal, so I just wanted to, this is stuff, the only reason I'm bringing it to you is really for public awareness. I will jump out front and say I could recommend approval of the data monitoring, provided the data it should provide the Orleans Pond Coalition. You have details on the data buoy they want to install, and I don't know if you have any questions. And I'm not sure if anyone's online, but I'll turn around and look.
Rich Levy is on.
Rich might be on the call if you have any questions. He's
So-
our,
Anything or just
I
answer
mean-
questions?
but,
There are no negative impacts to the resource from this. It's basically a 25-pound anchor that's going in. The only thing I'm not sure, John, is does this require an okay for a mooring from?
from
Nate.
Nate, yeah, we could direct it towards him for a
Okay.
quick sign-off. I don't want to speak for him, but I can't imagine he'd have too much issue with it if you approve it.
It's been deployed in a number of ponds in Falmouth last year, across the Cape, in fact. They've had really good results with it. I think the exciting piece of this is it has the potential for giving real-time warnings about cyanobacteria, as opposed to taking a sample, finding out maybe later the afternoon, the next day, something happens and you're not aware of it. So it has shown really good promise early on. Nice little system of green light, all clear. Yellow light may be a problem. Red light, don't go in. And again, immediately visible. Oh, I see Rich is online, so let him, I won't speak for him. Sorry, Rich.
Rich, do you want to present anything or have anything to add about the?
No, she's doing a great job. Of course, since she understands this really well. The only thing we did discuss is not necessarily using the color coding, but keeping the buoy light on at a very low level, just to make sure that, you know, any of the abutters aren't concerned about the light. Again, it's designed primarily for safety, but at least one or two of the other participants decided to turn on the red, yellow, green piece there. But right now, this is a scientific pilot, so we thought it's probably better just to use it as the marker there.
Yeah, my only concern with it was having a light on at night for the folks around the pond. Would be disturbing, and for wildlife.
And I would echo that, and since there are no power boats on Pilgrim Lake, navigation shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I think the subtlety in the previous speaker's comment is probably anchoring in a great pond, which is Nate's jurisdiction, so.
Yeah,
good check.
and I don't think there's going to be an issue with it, but I just think it might require that.
Be similar approval like he gives swim floats, Ginny.
Right, but what I'm saying is that under number 4 in lighting and visibility, it says light fully disabled if the pilot partner and/or the overseeing governing body prefer no nighttime light at this location.
Is that
I
an
think
option?
Jersey and I are saying
Yeah,
we would
we don't
prefer
want
no
nighttime light.
Can we ask Ed if that's an option?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we disable the night light on it?
Yes, yeah, it can be disabled completely.
Yeah, apparently from the ones that have been deployed, some
Yeah.
people wanted the light system, some
Yeah.
did not, and that's not an issue in terms of how the thing functions.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not, it's
Yeah,
a extra.
it's an LED, so they have, according to them, they have full control over the luminosity of it. So it could, if it was necessary for navigation or for concerns of that regard, it could be at a very low level, but it doesn't have to be on.
I would say off.
If a kayak bumps into it in the middle of the night, it's,
Shame on
They
you.
have to be a very fast paddler to cause,
yeah.
It's a bright yellow color, but it will
yeah.
probably
Right.
not, and it's small.
Yeah, just at the wildlife part of it is,
Disabled.
Okay.
yeah, disable it.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Rich, just one quick question. Obviously, you think one buoy is enough for Pilgrim. How big does a body of water need to be to justify using multiple of these buoys? Just for my own edification.
That's a very good question. Pilgrim Lake is within the limits that they would impose for only having one. They would look at the total bathymetry on the entire larger lake before they would determine whether there'd have to be another. So I don't know if there's a golden rule, so to speak. They tend to be very specific. So they got the bathymetry reports and they went through their algorithms or whatever, and they determined that they could put it at the 27-foot depth. And where we're doing the other sampling, the PALS is there and the other APC sampling. And they would still have a good representation at that acreage. But I don't know, they've never really said how many acres they would need before they needed the second one, but they've got single ones in even larger ponds, so I'm assuming it could be more than that.
Okay.
I think it has to do with topography, the tide and the wind. And
Thank
they've
you.
already calculated that apparently for the pond, for the lake.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, so we don't know. It's a pilot. They're very confident that that location, it is further from the beach, but they still feel that it will be representative.
Thank you.
This is just a curiosity. Did you buy this, or is it leased, or what?
It is actually a, I guess you could call it a lease. We'll be paying a fee per month. It'll then go back to them in November when the cyanobacteria season is over. And so we put insurance on it. There's a rider that we'll have on it for insurance in case something happens to it. And other than that, yeah, so it's basically a leasing agreement.
Okay, that's,
Well, thank you to OPC for doing this.
yes.
It's going to be great, very interesting. And Judith was involved early on in this, so.
Any other questions, guys?
Gonna
So
do
we'll,
manual testing?
we'll give a shout out to the Falmouth Pond Coalition that flagged it to my attention.
Yeah.
With the notes that the harbor master is to approve the mooring and the night light shall be disabled, are you ready to act?
Can I get a motion?
I move to approve the administrative review for Pilgrim Lake proposed monitoring.
With the amendments
the
that John just said.
amendments.
Yeah.
On record?
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Dick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Teresa, aye. Ken?
Aye.
Thank you.
Manual.
Just quickly, do I go, then I should go to Nate Sears and show him, or?
I think maybe contacting
more-
John in the conservation office and he'll figure it out.
Yeah, we're gonna send our approval out to you, Ed, and we will
Okay.
copy our harbor master on it, and I think a quick follow-up
Great.
with him should get you the answer.
Okay, because I have already spoken to earlier on to Nate Sears, so he's aware of the project.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks,
We
Rich.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay, our next order of business, Orleans Conservation Trust update on the Namaquoit Bog Study.
Hello, everyone. Tom Karras, Orleans Conservation Trust. Doing the bulk of the presentation today is Andy Fallon online. He's with Interfluve Inc. OCT received a grant from the Mass Division of Ecological Restoration at the beginning of last year to study and develop a concept design for the restoration of Namaquoit Bog, 160 Namaquoit Road. And Interfluve was our selected contractor, with the subcontractor being Wilkinson. And Andy today is going to present basically the findings of that study. So there's no action required today. This is mostly just an update and hopefully sparking some good conversation and getting the awareness out for this project.
Great. Go ahead online.
Alrighty, can you all hear me all right?
We can.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for having me today, and thank you for the intro, Tom. My name is Andy Fallon. I'm a geomorphologist with Interfluve, and today we're just going to be going through the study at the Namaquoit Bog over the last year. And so I'll start with just a lovely little image of Powwow Pond looking on the outlet of the bog itself. And as your eyes are probably drawn to a precariously perched sailboat that ended up somehow on the marsh, that was quite a look to start our day. This was during a survey back in March of this year. But just a brief outline of kind of what I'm going to go over today is a little bit of a site overview and management history of the bog itself, and then getting into kind of the existing conditions today of what we're seeing at the bog, as well as kind of how the bog, water is flowing through the bog, as well as underneath the Namaquoit Road and the associated infrastructure with that. And then we're going to dive into a little more deeply into kind of our site reconnaissance survey and analysis, and how those analyses kind of informed the different alternatives that we worked with Tom and OCT to try to think about different kind of routes that we could go from a restoration perspective on the site. And then lastly, when kind of deciding upon our final alternative, how we then used our analyses from our site reconnaissance, as well as historical information to inform our conceptual restoration designs for what we are proposing at this point on the site. And these are all pretty preliminary designs. So thinking about from like an engineering perspective, kind of like a 30% level. So relatively broad strokes still, but the idea of, still a full site restoration. And we'll get into that, and then we'll make sure to have plenty of time for some questions and discussions at the end here. So just briefly going over the area itself. So active cranberry bog farming beginning at the end of the 1800s, and not sure the exact date, but likely end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s. The bogs were subsequently retired sometime in the 1950s, and soon after were purchased by the Orleans Conservation Trust. There's a sluice gate that was replaced in 2011 based on a grant from Wildlife Habitat Incentive Program. But some of the images I'm showing here are just highlighting the bog. It's kind of sandwiched in between the Namaquoit River and Little Pleasant Bay, and the bog through the years, and most recently the two lower images between 2009 and 2019 highlight the a big difference in the amount of water on the site, and really that led to also the die-off of a lot of the Atlantic white cedar trees on the site. And so, the bog is currently at a pretty, the ecosystem services, you could say, of the site have been far better in the past. And so part of this restoration effort is really to try to restore the bog to a naturally functioning wetland, what it would have been prior to the cranberry cultivation happening centuries ago. And so getting into kind of our site reconnaissance, so over the last years, we've done a slew of different analyses to both try to characterize the land on the site as well as the water flowing through the site and what kind of tidal connection it currently still has. And so kind of the primary element of this is a topographic or bathymetric survey, where we're doing a combination of surveying the channel within the site through the ditches and the pond, as well as the actual marsh surface itself. And so although in general, we're sure we're all very familiar with these salt marshes and that they're largely relatively flat features, but for a lot of these restoration efforts, those little subtleties in elevation make a huge difference in where water is flowing. So it's really important to really accurately capture that via survey. So here's just a good representation of the survey shots that we're taking on the site. And for anyone who's been to the site, it can be a little challenging to navigate. It's rather overgrown. And so primarily the best way to kind of navigate is by going through the old agricultural ditches or up and through the pond features. So each of these points represents essentially a coordinated space with an X, Y, and Z dimension, and so that way we can basically, as best as possible, analyze and characterize the site much more accurately than we'd be able to do with something just like relying on like LiDAR, for example. And the second main analysis we did there was to probe and into the subsurface, and basically using sediment probing, much like you're seeing on the right here, their colleague Annie. And so the point of probing is to see what kind of material is in the subsurface and what is that going to inform us about what kind of restoration could we do on site and where do we want to actually design those elements. And so typically in these old bog sites, during the farming operations, farmers typically would put a layer of like agricultural sand on top of the bog surface. And what that was doing is basically keeping out, weeds from going, keeping the cranberries fresh, but also a lot of these, almost all of these old cranberry bog sites were established on areas that were historic wetlands. And historic wetlands typically have an abundance of peat soils underneath. And those peat soils, as they decompose over time, they slowly subside. And so that substance also causes the surface of that cranberry bog to lower. And so adding that sand keeps that surface right where farmers want, for harvesting, to keep the elevation of the bog surface consistent. And so doing this probing throughout the site, we can see kind of a wide array, and the color map here is, areas that are red and then red to white are going to be your thick layers of areas of peat. And so we have areas of peat up to almost 20 feet in throughout the site, and there's essentially pretty consistently about a foot to a foot and a half of sand spread relatively uniformly across the whole site. And then you have this large lobe of peat kind of spanning on the southern and western portions of the site, as well as more periodically in the center where that pond feature is developed today, where you see the most subsidence. And one thing to note, and you can see on this map here that the star emblem is that during probing, we encountered a very consistent wood layer that was between 5 and 6 feet down in the subsurface. So we think that this was likely a relic of like, a buried, kind of like floodplain forest during a time when sea level was a lot lower, and before that this actually was operating, or kind of behaving, I should say, as a natural, like, tidal wetland. And so one of the things that discussed with Tom is thinking about, in future design phases, and partially just for interest, but also to better inform kind of the historical nature of this site, of was it originally a freshwater or saltwater wetland, is that we could do some, using radiocarbon dating techniques, actually determine how old some of that buried wood is, which we would naturally be pulling out during any kind of later phase of construction as well. And so lastly, the third kind of primary prong of analysis that we did on site was we looked at water level monitoring. And so we set up water level monitors both in Powell Pond, you can see in kind of the bottom left of this map here, as well as in the ditch connecting the pond to the bog, and then a slew of both surface and groundwater loggers within the Amoquoit Bog itself. And the key here was trying to determine, A, what are the natural tidal fluctuations that you're seeing within Powell Pond, and how much of those fluctuations are we actually seeing translate into the site. And because of some of the infrastructure on site, there is a constriction that is essentially keeping that natural tidal inundation to actually extend out over the bog. And so this little inset on the left here is just kind of a zoom in of the same, that inset of these water level loggers. And so we have SW1 was a logger out in Powell Pond. SW2 was in that ditch, kind of on the downstream end of the sluice gate that I mentioned previously was replaced in 2011. And then SW3 and SA were monitoring on the inside of the bog surface, on the upstream end of that sluice gate. And so basically we have this kind of 3-tiered zone that we can monitor how water is able to inundate during a tidal cycle into the bog surface itself. And so keeping that kind of graphic in mind for how these loggers are spaced in relation to one another, this graph here is showing basically during a high tide cycle that was actually let's see, I guess this would have been the spring cycle at the end of June. Yes. So highlighting over here, can you all see my cursor?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, thank you. So essentially here, this peak, where we're seeing this peak high tide. So this green line is representing the water level in Powell Pond. The blue line kind of in between is in the ditch here in SW2. And then lastly, this orange is SW3, so actually in the bog site itself. So as you can see, there's a pretty significant attenuation of the tide as how it's trying to get into the site. And so what that's showing is that there's this constriction from both the culvert underneath the Amoquoit Road and then also the sluice gate itself. And so even at a time of particularly high water levels like we saw this past June, you're not able to actually get that full tidal propagation into the site. There is some connection into the site. We also were able to monitor that by checking the salinity within the site itself. So this is not just a relic of the precipitation runoff. But what this did is it was able to calculate kind of averages throughout the time period of our tidal datums of what we would see for your average, mean high and higher high waters, as well as mean tide, sea level, low water, and lower low water within Powell Pond. And essentially the point of calculating these datums is that we can use these essentially as statistics so that we can evaluate with the removal of or replacement of some of these structures, how we would actually be able to see those tide levels extend out onto the bog itself. And so this is what we use to kind of inform our alternatives analysis. And so looking at this kind of map on the right, so these 3 colors, red, yellow, and blue, are showing essentially the inundation extent during a mean higher high water event. And so mean higher high water is going to be your average elevation of your higher tide throughout a given day. And so that blue inundation extent is what is the current configuration with the existing culvert and the existing sluice gate in place. And so, and keep in mind, this is the extent of floodwaters, so it could be incredibly shallow. This is not sitting water like you'd see in Powell Pond, but that there's tidal flow getting into the site and spreading out, typically up through the channels, ditches, and then into that pond feature and extending laterally. So in thinking about alternatives, we have kind of the standard no action alternative, which would basically everything on site would remain as is. This would be our blue extent within the bog surface would likely, continue as is, and then kind of continue to expand over the years with increasing sea level rise. Our alternative one would be removing the sluice gate, which is that structure in between the bog itself and the bog ditch. And that is represented by this yellow here. So that's showing that that's alleviating some of the tidal restriction and enhancing some of that kind of connectivity to the tide, as well as the extent of those floodwaters daily. And then lastly, our alternative two is to actually remove both the sluice gate and replace the culvert underneath Namaquoit Road. So the culvert and the sluice gate, because they are elevated, they're causing this tidal restriction. And the culvert in particular, as you can see by that red extent being much larger laterally across the bog, is that it essentially enables a larger degree of that tidal flow to get up onto the bog site. And in thinking about restoration, part of a healthy salt marsh ecosystem is actually extending. You really want to facilitate that inundation that is bringing really important sediment as well as nutrients onto your bog surface, which is really healthy for the salt marsh plants. And so thinking about these three different kind of alternatives based on the infrastructure on the site, we discussed with Tom and folks at OCT as well as Mass DER about how do we evaluate the alternatives. And so we came up with this alternatives analysis matrix where we go through kind of like a variety of different variables. And then from a qualitative standpoint, like how are these impacted by these certain alternatives? And so thinking both from an ecological benefit as well as from how this impacts the infrastructure and the adjacent homeowners. So we wanted to look at how this would impact our wetland habitat, how different alternatives would promote coastal resiliency, alleviate tidal restriction, promote salt marsh migration throughout the site, which is a kind of almost a subset of coastal resiliency itself, but is a really key component, and especially adjusting to sea level rise in the future. And then lastly, addressing the infrastructure concerns, which we already, we noted that the culvert itself is undersized and elevated, so it's not promoting full tidal connection through the site, as well as then also the fact that the road itself is relatively low, and we've seen during severe storm surge incidents, overtopping or close to overtopping, if not overtopping the road. And then lastly, minimize or mitigate private infrastructure impacts. And so we want to make sure that if we're suggesting the idea of removing some of this infrastructure surrounding the bog and the road, that this isn't posing a risk to these adjacent homeowners. And fortunately, like many of these old wetlands and kettles on the Cape, is that it's this local depression where the cranberry bog operation was taking place, and the homeowners around the sides they're kind of like up and removed, almost on a small terrace, elevated away from the bog site. So fortunately, there's very little impacts from any of the alternatives on how that would influence flooding within the bog sites. And so after all these discussions, it became very clear that, I think, and Tom and OCT are very interested in promoting restoration and particularly thinking about this coastal resiliency and adaptation to sea level rise on the site, and that it seemed that, they were most happy going forward with alternative two, which would be replacing the culvert as well as removing the sluice gate, and then also promoting kind of aiding in that wetland restoration by doing some surface modifications on the site. And so that's how we then worked with them, as well as Wilkinson Ecological Design, who came up with a planting plan. And that's kind of how we informed our conceptual restoration designs. And so what this is doing here is, and forgive me, I'm sure this could seem a little busy, but essentially the different colors are representing different areas of vegetation types. And the key here is that essentially everything in the top half of the site is remaining pretty much as is. So we want to have kind of like a light touch from a restoration perspective. But basically the idea is that we would be designing a new tidally connected channel that would connect up into the pond, as well as removing some of that sand that was placed during cranberry cultivation. And then, so essentially creating a sand removal corridor around our new tidal channel, and then kind of grading up rather gradually between, over the course of, essentially a foot of elevation gain. And essentially what that would do is it would create two different zones of low marsh and high marsh ecosystem within the bog. And all of these designs were informed by that approximate area of daily tidal inundation, that mean higher high water mark. And so the idea here is that with removing those structures, we're really, you're quite literally inundating 2/3 of the site by daily tidal flow. But what that does is by removing some of the sand and adding in some plantings for some of these salt marsh plants, it really promotes the growth and the kind of restoration of this natural salt marsh ecosystem, which can be incredibly beneficial, as juvenile fish habitat, can really be useful from a nutrient cycling standpoint, and then having that gradation of low marsh to high marsh really promotes this kind of coastal resiliency, as well as just kind of adaptation to storm surge and in the face of sea level rise. Will be a very, we believe, can be a really potent ecosystem that also is quite adaptable and resilient moving forward. And with that, and forgive me because I can be a little long-winded at times, especially in the room by myself, but love to field any questions or discussions about kind of any of the processes from our analysis, as well as kind of how we arrived in our conceptual designs here.
Thank you. That was great. Very informative. Not long-winded from my perspective. Anybody have questions?
So not so much a question as a huge thanks to OCT and to this study. I think this is just incredibly exciting that we're always looking for areas of possible salt marsh migration. We're losing it, so much of our salt marsh, and this is just excellent to be able to find an area where we might be able to get additional salt marsh and to see this area improve. So really good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, this is just fascinating as far as educational-wise. I do have a couple of questions as far as, have you seen any diversity in, I guess, in the flora and fauna in the area?
Yeah, so currently it's kind of in an interesting state because due to the kind of the tidal attenuation within the site, so the fact that you're not getting a full tidal cycle getting into the bog itself, it's kind of in this strange purgatory zone of halfway between a freshwater wetland and desperately attempting to become a saltwater wetland, but with not enough typical kind of like salinity within the actual soils itself to promote like what you'd think of as your traditional salt marsh plants like Spartina alterniflora or Spartina patens. And so most of the site is pretty overgrown with primarily like green briars and grasses and sedges. And so a lot during the transition zone that kind of we're proposing down the road for this restoration, there would be kind of an initial surge of planting of saltwater marsh restoration plants. But we believe that pretty quickly, and we've seen this on other sites, that kind of once you actually, it's a little like Field of Dreams-esque, like if you build it, they will come. If you remove it, the salt marsh will come. And so once you allow that full tidal inundation to kind of reestablish itself, those plants come in really quickly and actually grow quite fast. And so we would envision that pretty soon after construction, like within kind of the first year of something like this, you would have a pretty well-established salt marsh within the bog.
Wow, it's amazing.
Jeannie?
I think this is really interesting, and such a positive move. The Wastewater Management Advisory Committee has been looking at salt marsh attenuation for nitrogen removal, and have a plan to get a study done for the Poche Marsh, which preliminarily suggests that we might not have to do one phase of sewering, because the healthy marsh will attenuate enough nitrogen that we don't have to do it. So anything that can be done to propagate healthy salt marsh is good. It's great.
Excellent investment.
A very good investment. Keep your marshes healthy, people.
John?
I just want to thank you for that presentation. It is exciting. I've known you guys are working hard on it, so it's nice to see. I think checks a lot of boxes, obviously, some of the stuff that you talk about in either here or in other regional agencies or other committees, like you stressed, about resource area migration and creating space. And it's nice to see the modeling shows that it doesn't cause conflict, like one of the tidal restriction removals to the north of us and the butters and flooding. So I didn't really see that in the modeling, so that was cool. But a lot of it does involve the culvert, right? So I don't know where you are with that, Tom, and eventually that'll involve the town. I know how probably oversubscribed those guys are. But, and maybe the commission can weigh in on that whenever the time is ready, to see if,
Would there be
perhaps even
some
before-
grants, some coastal resiliency grants available that might help to
I
pay
think those are
for-
being looked at. I don't know if you want to speak on that, but.
Yeah, we apply with George Meservey. We applied with to the MVP grant to the coastal resiliency there, but that was more just for planning dollars because of site walks with DPW and just talking about how overprescribed they are or subscribed they are. So really, just these projects take a lot of time, as I think we all know. There are a lot of steps, and we don't want to miss any steps. We want to bring people along. And making sure that, there are a lot of conflicting, time, resources. So we want to make sure that we all have that lined up. But yeah, we've trying to draw the planning phase out a little bit longer to allow this project to take place.
resource areas and
Have any
A lot of
idea,
salt
like,
marsh
Yeah,
and
just-
potential, when you're talking about grading,
Permitting.
you're starting to talk about, dredging, that awful D word, and, then who are you going to have to involve in terms of, it just gets messy, so,
So-
yeah.
a filing of this type, and we don't have to get into it, but it's an ecological restoration filing because of the alteration of the existing wetland.
Yes.
We could talk about that when it gets closer, but I had a question. So you had a tidal restriction. I think the delta was like a couple of feet. What is, if your goal is to welcome in like the full 4 foot of tidal regime, like what does that look like for the culvert, the road? Is that a box culvert or what kind of, to use the word, stream crossing, what does that look like? You have any idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically on this type of project, we almost always, at least from a starting point, defer to the Massachusetts stream crossing design guidelines.
Right.
That are basically made as, you all are sure pretty familiar with, but the point of them is, they are promoting as much, I believe that they call the term ecological passage. So it's not just fish passage, turtle passage, aquatic insects, the works. But it would be a natural channel bottom, typically kind of 3, so essentially a box culvert without a bottom that would essentially have 2 kind of concrete abutments that would be buried within the substrate, within the natural channel bottom, natural flow going over it. So you'd have full passage of sediment and water and nutrients in and out. And it would be, I think that at that phase, that's when we really would have more discussions with the town about, is this a time that we are looking into, are we potentially thinking about raising the elevation of the road, or are we keeping the road as is? From a design perspective for us, currently the tide is trying to squeeze through, a 12-inch diameter pipe. And so for the purposes of actually being able to get that full tidal prism in and out of the site twice a day, we essentially need something that's like 4 to 5 times that size. So, but any kind of standard, box culvert that's less than 10 feet high is going to provide plenty of accommodation space for that, to getting that tidal flow in and out. And so then it's really more of a question of, are there other, within the town itself, other concerns of that you might want to address at the same time? Of if you're already, going to address the tidal flow, do you want to think about raising the road or reestablishing, kind of the setting down there at that crossing?
Right, yeah, that's why I asked the question, is if you would welcome in a modern standard like is detailed in the stream crossing standards. Yeah, the road's probably gonna come up and there's some drainage there too, so it's not only the stream crossing / culvert replacement, and boy, 12-inch, that's kind of a brutal restriction given what you got in terms of land area and resource area, space in the bog. It's just not a lot of area to push a tide through. Yeah, fair amount of design. So I guess I asked that question because if you ever do need to get some town support, I think the commission, obviously seeing all the head noddings and the smiles after the presentation, would happy to write you a letter of support if you needed to go to another department to get them on board with a grant or whatever that is. But it would be a welcome project, I think.
I'm guessing there's also some utilities going through there, maybe water lines, certainly electric.
There's a water main.
Yeah, there's water main.
It's a water main, I figured as
Yeah.
much.
We've gotten some of that infrastructure from DPW, so there's some space to work with now, but.
So I'll just make a comment that visually, after the February storms, the storm hit us, the water flowing out into Aries Pond was, had a lot of velocity. So whatever you're doing, in 30 years, had not seen that type of flow. Granted, the storm was strong enough, but I mean, the melt off, where, it was totally washing over the marsh as it entered in Aries Pond. So it was coming out of a 12-inch culvert, and it was just moving very, very quickly. It was kind of fun to watch.
You mean Pawa?
I meant Pawa, what did I say?
We're talking to Aries earlier in the meeting,
I didn't say Chatham, at least,
That would be embarrassing. This was just an error.
It was fun to watch, and it was working.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions while we have these folks here?
No, that was great.
That was great.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, looking forward
Excellent
to,
presentation.
looking forward to
Yes.
next
Thank you so
steps.
much.
So much. Fascinating.
Okay, next up, Chairman's Business, review and discussion of land subject to coastal storm flowage regulations, everyone's favorite topic. I got some comments from some of you and incorporated them in. I'm working on yet another draft to bring before you so that we can get an approval of a draft that we can then start using to get public input and comment. I think one of the suggestions was to define nature-based flood protection measures. I don't know if anyone knows of a good source of that. If you do, let me know, otherwise I'll just Google AI, blah-de-blah, it.
What was that again?
Nature-based flood protection measures and good sort of modern examples of that.
Flood protection.
Removing.
Came from Heather, does she have it?
No, I don't, well, I mean, it's in the, nature-based flood measures is in the regs, but the question was, we should define what that actually is. We talked about that last time, when people had questions about it. Another thing that came up, in the definition for project site, we talk about sewage systems and water systems, but it'd probably be good to add in utilities like electrical, fuel tanks, generators, and things like that. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that. There were a couple questions about, there are references to temporary seawalls and temporary flood barriers. Again, should be included in the definitions.
What's a temporary?
Exactly, what
Yeah,
is a
what is
temporary seawall? You know, that's part of the Cape Cod Commission recommendations, and I think it needs defining or removal, one way or the other.
Do you know what that means, John?
Don't really know what
We're
it,
talking like cofferdams that go in to facilitate a construction project?
maybe? I mean, that makes sense for, but temporary seawall.
Like sandbags?
So maybe I'll check with the commission on that and see what they meant by that, because,
And under nature base, she kind of implies that it's, luminous sediment. So I don't know if that's,
well, yeah, I mean, but,
rules or living shorelines. Or,
right, is that included in that or not, you know?
Well, it's the removal of a culvert, a nature-based,
That's sort of like man-made, though.
well, that's what I'm wondering, but
Yeah,
but the result would be a nature-based.
Right.
Yeah, so what does it mean? What does processed food mean?
yeah, so questions around that, if you have any ideas, let me know. In the preamble, we talk about land subcoast storm flowage and calculated extent of a 1% storm, including the predicted path of storm flowage during extreme high tides, hurricanes. What wasn't included but was suggested was things like blizzards, nor'easters, and other storms of note, because we don't just get high tides and blizzards, and extreme high tides aren't always associated with storms, they're associated
No.
with cycles.
Getting them now.
Lunar,
But
yeah.
there was
lunar.
also a question about the word extreme. What is that? What is the
Yeah.
definition of that word in that
Frame of
context?
reference.
Yeah. So I don't know if anyone has any good ideas about that, but again, it can be a Google fest.
I did find some prioritizing changes that strengthen natural systems base resilience. Stronger requirements for native vegetation restoration. It's one.
Where is this?
I'm pulling it off of research that I've done.
Okay,
So this is coming, so stronger requirements about native vegetation's restoration, limits on structural interventions that interrupt natural adaptations, clear standards for nature-based solutions and when they are not appropriate, explicit discouragement of temporary fixes that create long-term vulnerability. So gives us, coming out of somewhere, it was just,
I seem to recall, and this, I think this is correct, that at last year's One Cape, the commission had hired Crawford Land Management to come up with template plans for people who were pond front, freshwater pond front, to help to stabilize their banks and.
that's what
Oh,
this is.
yeah, and the suggestion was, of course, that that same kind of template could be created with modifications for shorefront, saltwater shorefront. So that might be a place to look, Jersey, is for that, I don't know what it was called, pond front resiliency plantings.
okay, yeah,
But I'm pretty sure it was Crawford that did it.
okay. Another change in the performance standards in section C, C1, 4, changing the wording, so changing the wording to causing or, there's a discrepancy between whether we're just referring to damage to other structures or properties or causing or creating the likelihood of damage to other properties. Obviously, from a point of law, those are two very different things. So that's a decision we need to make, is like, which are we saying?
Or can you say both?
Yeah,
We can.
I would, I
But
would,
you know, creating the likelihood of is gonna be more restrictive, and we have to keep an eye on that, but on the other hand, maybe it should be, so.
To back it up to C1, shouldn't it be like cause or create damage? I mean,
Well,
I still
C1,
owe you my comments, but there's a lot of,
yeah, because it says shall not cause or create the likelihood of any, so I guess it's already written up there.
but C1 is to prevent, you know, it ends with preventing the following, you know?
Yep,
So to, you know, that's causing or,
well, so in that case, then 4 would, following that, the full sentence would be cause or create the likelihood of any of the following damage to other structures, because it already includes the create the likelihood.
because you're, you know, you're in a, you're applying this in a, to a proposal, you don't,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah,
the finding in a hearing room that it may cause or create, not that it has caused or created.
right. Another question that came up in specific to the MIWA zone, but I mean, kind of in general, is what are acceptable hydrological or flood analysis types? If we're gonna ask people to do hydrological analysis for what could happen, what exactly is that and what's acceptable? And when does it have to be done, under what circumstances?
Or an individual property?
This is specific sort of to
What number is-
redevelop. So I'm looking at E, additional performance standards,
What number E?
E1, except as permitted for redevelopment sites, any new construction, blah, blah, blah. May be allowed only if the applicant demonstrates the project will not redirect, channelize, or exacerbate flood conditions. New structure in the expanded portion of an existing structure shall be elevated consistent with the requirements of state building code. So for the redirect, channelize, or exacerbate flood conditions, you know, how are they proving to us that they've studied that it won't? Using what types of analysis? I guess is really the question there. And is that something that can be included in regs, or is that just a case-by-case basis?
In regs, we usually use words like through the preponderance of credible evidence.
I mean, we do some of that now, just not with the new definitions for,
And not specify, you know, what flood model, I mean,
Okay.
if it changes.
Yeah, we just need to say somewhere that, you know, there needs to be some sort of analysis or proof.
the burden is
I
on
think we
them.
even say in another section, through the preponderance of credible evidence from a competent source.
Competent source. Okay.
and the homeowners would be responsible for that.
Yeah, the applicant.
Okay. Oh, the applicant, right, yes, yes, okay, gotcha.
Okay, that's good. Another change that was proposed by one of our commissioners, under F for redevelopment sites, under F1, it had read at redevelopment sites, any new construction or reconstruction of existing structure shall be constructed entirely within the footprint of the previously, and this proposed change was in the footprint of the foundation of the previously developed structure. I don't know.
Foundation as opposed,
Foundation is, you know, does a footprint include things beyond a foundation? Or does it,
Like steps and stuff like that? And porch?
Normally, it doesn't for the purposes of building coverage in this.
Suzie, what are you looking at there? F what?
F1, for redevelopment sites, when we're talking about reconstructing, you know, a structure that got essentially wiped out. Entirely, it had read entirely within the footprint of the previously developed structure. The suggestion was entirely within the footprint of the foundation of the previous. Do we want to get to that level of, I think that came from you, Dick.
That's all it means anyways. I mean, we don't, the decks.
Got a lot of,
You wouldn't replace a previously
Yeah, it's just-
developed
it's
deck
just-
with a new.
taking lots of different
Well-
people's ideas.
No, you wouldn't replace it with foundation, but, I mean, this seems like if we add foundation, doesn't that exclude things like things attached to the building that weren't on a foundation, like a deck or?
Oh, what's the
We don't
current?
count the stoops and decks for building coverage, so.
True.
it Doesn't, I wouldn't
Doesn't
assume that
matter.
if it were destroyed and they were a building and you wanted to, you're in the MIWA and you're limiting to the footprint.
Yeah, I don't
Stoops are gonna be
think
an
including foundation is necessary here.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, all right. Those were some of the questions I had after, I mean, I got a lot of sort of smaller little comments in terms of just some parsing and language and things like that, that I've mostly included. So when I send out a clean copy, everyone can re-review, but those were just a few of the bigger questions that came. And I don't know if anyone else has stuff for today that you didn't have a chance to send beforehand, or if we're getting to the point where we're getting pretty good with these and ready to get some input, public comment, and further perusal by John. And,
Always stuff.
you know, town council will obviously have to look at this at some point, but probably not until we've gotten public input, I would think, because we don't want to waste their time with constantly changing, potentially changing regs.
Do you have to have a public hearing?
We have to have multiple public hearings, I
Because
think.
I was going to say
Ways
that we would have to have a public hearing once the language is set.
And how do we?
But we could amend based on,
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking the commission if, with the next version that comes out, if we can put it on our next agenda to be like, yep, here it is. And then we can start setting up one or more public hearings so that we can get public input. And also, a lot of the comments I got had to do with how we present this material. We got some good ideas from Chatham. I talked to those guys. In terms of their public hearings, they got very little feedback.
That's not good,
I
guess.
they didn't, well, let's put it this way, they got very little sort of outcry in terms of, oh, you're taking more, you're gonna be more restrictive.
Negative,
It was,
more positive.
wasn't heavily attended. This is a problem we always face and we'll work on hard. We've got Amanda now to help us with publication of these types of hearings.
Is that sort of like an educational thing for the public as far as?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we certainly aren't gonna open a hearing and say, comment on
No,
this.
no, I know
Um,
that, but,
So,
I was,
but one of the things Chatham also did, in addition to getting some of the folks who have been involved in this from the commission and from Pleasant Bay Alliance and whatnot, to help us sort of, you know, like the slideshow they presented.
Yes.
That type of
yes,
material.
yes, I think that
There
would
was
be.
also a very good kind of one-pager they put together that laid it out really cleanly. This is what this really means. MIWA, MOA, oh my God, it's really just like, hey, waves are fast in certain zones and then they slow down, and here's the types of things that it makes sense to be able to build in one versus the other, and here's, you know, the general ideas. We're not taking any more, you know, jurisdiction, we're just.
This
talking
is
about-
what's coming.
Just talking about things that can and should for the public good. I mean, a lot of this has to do with town land and town landings and things like that.
But wouldn't,
Roads.
excuse me, but wouldn't our jurisdiction be expanded if the flood tides get higher and such, and in effect?
Our jurisdiction as it sits now will get expanded as.
Right.
I mean, that becomes
Okay.
resource area.
Okay, okay, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to,
Mother Nature dictates.
yes, no,
our
I understand that.
jurisdiction.
It's just, Notifying the public. I'm not confident with the,
Yeah.
say that online.
So that sort of very basic layman's language introduction to this material is entirely required. And then, folks can either at the moment comment or go off and obviously we'll put this stuff online. People can take a look at it and see if they have any very specific reaction to it. But I think it's just the general concept, and get as many people educated and aware of it as possible, because in the end, we'll have to go to town meeting.
Yes.
And the last thing we want to do is debate every page of this
Yes,
on the
exactly.
floor of town meeting. We'll be there for 3 days. So we want to make sure we get all that stuff sorted out beforehand, as much as possible. I mean, obviously,
Now, the key is so often trying to get people to turn out for the hearings.
Yeah.
Raise their questions then so that they
Yeah.
understand what's being discussed rather than.
So as soon as we sort of get this buttoned up, I would encourage everyone to talk it up as much as possible. We'll get all the help we can from Town Hall in terms of publicizing, but just, we can go to the other groups, the Orleans Pond, Friends of Pleasant Bay, we can go to all those folks. We can try to take a look at anyone who might be affected by new regs on their property via mapping and contact them directly. We can do a lot of things like that to try to really get objections understood and taken care of before we get to anything like a town meeting.
Nice job.
So I have a quick question. As far as getting, a public presentation, I really like that group that.
Yeah, they have absolutely agreed to help us with that.
Yeah, because I would think that might be a first step, but also preparing for that with the new regulations and whatever other information beforehand. So maybe to pique people's curiosity or so they have an interest in coming.
That's a good point. Okay, so as usual, if you have any other nits and picks, please send them my way really soon, because I need to get this into the packet. We have a little extra time because we've got a fifth Tuesday this month, but, so I'm hoping at the July 7th meeting for us to say yes to this, and then we can start going to the public. And in the meantime, I'll start developing an outline and work with Dick and David, who's our work group for this, on public education and getting good participation in public hearings on this.
Thank you for your work, Teresa.
Sure enough.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank PBA and Chatham and all those guys. Okay. And our next order of business, was there any other chairman's business, anything?
When is the right time to make a PSA?
After we do meeting approval?
Okay.
Yep. Can I get, did anyone have any comments for meeting minutes of 6/2/26? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for 6/2/26?
Move to approve the meeting minutes of 6/2/26.
Second?
All those in favor, Tim?
Aye.
Ginny?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Judith?
Aye.
Terry?
Aye.
Brucey? Aye. Ken?
Hi.
Public comment?
Please.
Okay. On June 8th, the town of Orleans was notified that we have reverted back to a level 2 drought. That means all water restrictions that were announced for May 1st are in place. I would like to thank the people of Orleans for not using their automatic sprinkler systems and not washing their boats and not washing their cars, patios, decks, and not filling their pools. And for those people who have private wells, I would like to thank you as well for abiding by those restrictions.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment online? Mia?
Nope.
There's no one in the room. Anything else, guys?
Nice,
Right.
nice meeting.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.